Good morning. My name is Una Bienentreu, and I'm an offshore industries advisor at JNCC. For this talk, I will present on the Offshore Wind Environmental Evidence Register, also known as the OWEER, which is a similar tool to the ScotMER evidence maps. I will give some general background on the register, highlight key differences to the evidence maps, and then finally talk about some upcoming project work and next steps for the OWEER. The OWEER is created by JNCC and was originally commissioned by the Crown Estate in DEFRA, and is a project that is funded through the Offshore Wind Evidence and Change Programme. It was first created in 2021 and aims to act as a UK-wide and publicly available register that collates and prioritizes evidence gaps that could increase certainty in offshore wind impact assessments, but also collects information on ongoing and completed research relating to offshore wind. The purpose of the OWEER was initially to guide and support the prioritization of OWEER funding decisions, but it also acts as a live resource for funders, industry, and research to increase the understanding of the current scope of research regarding offshore wind, as well as to raise awareness and share research findings to facilitate debate, discussion, and change. The OWEER has a spreadsheet format that is divided into several different tabs. There are multiple tabs that help users understand the OWEER, for example, a README, user guide, acronym list, and prioritization guide. The rest of the OWEER then covers technical information, and specifically there are 5 receptors: benthic, ornithology, marine mammals, fish, and overarching for information that does not fit into any of the other receptor groups. The green tabs are for evidence gaps, and there is 1 per receptor. The purple tabs are for research projects, again 1 per receptor. Within the evidence gap spreadsheets for the receptors, each row represents a different evidence gap and is given a unique identifier. The spreadsheets are then further divided into a number of different sections. The first one describes and gives details for each of the evidence gaps, and this includes information like recommended research to address the gap and target receptors. The second covers the prioritization of the evidence gap, and this is where each of the gaps is ranked primarily based on consenting risk, but also a number of other factors. And if you're interested in how this is calculated, please see the prioritization guide within the OWEER itself. The third then covers any links and overlaps both within OWEER and externally. The fourth is about the different topics that the evidence gap relates to, and the fifth is metadata. The research project spreadsheets follow a very similar layout to the evidence gaps, where each row represents a different research project and is given a unique identifier. The first section then covers project details like the project title, target receptors, or the direct graphic scope of the research. Then there's information given on the project partners, the project status like the timeline, any research outputs, external and internal links and overlaps, and this may include information like external publications. Then the sixth section covers any topics that the research relates to, and finally metadata. Since the project has been running, the OWEER has hit multiple milestones. Alongside a project advisory group of stakeholder organizations, the first OWEER was created and then published in June 2021. Since then, 4 more versions have been published, with version 6 due to be published on the Marine Data Exchange this month. The OWEER originally started with only 3 receptor groups, and there are now 5 receptor groups, and within each of these, hundreds of evidence gaps and research has been documented. We have also created a prioritization process for evidence gaps and the overall quality assurance process with the project advisory group. We've improved the overall usability of the register and increase the breadth of contributing organizations, which include SNCBs, industry, and research bodies. We've published 2 high-priority evidence gap reports that detail high-priority themes needing urgent research within each of the receptors groups. And then finally, we've hosted 2 OWEER forums to bring together stakeholders from offshore wind to discuss the register itself, but also barriers, opportunities, and general needs within offshore wind research. As I've previously mentioned, the OWEER and ScotMER evidence maps are quite similar, but there are also some key differences. The OWEER has a UK-wide focus, while the evidence maps are focused on Scotland only. The OWEER only includes environmental receptors, while the ScotMER evidence maps also have some additional receptors like socioeconomics, physical processes, and fisheries. The OWEER incorporates evidence maps as separate evidence gaps within the register, while the evidence maps instead note links to the high priority report themes that I've mentioned on the previous slide. Finally, the OWEER relies on voluntary submissions of information, while the evidence maps are populated through specialist workshops. I would also like to highlight here that there is a mutual representation between the two programs, so there are assigned representatives from JNCC and ScotMER on the respective project boards. Moving forward with the OWEER, JNCC will be working on a new project which was commissioned by the Crown Estate and sits under the OWEER program workstream for 2025, and this new project will run from January to December this year. It aims to clarify how far OWEER projects and also wider projects have shifted the dial to close evidence gaps and to understand potentially changing priorities of evidence gaps. This work is very much a rationalization of OWEER and involves a deep dive review of available evidence and research against evidence needs, an assessment whether evidence gaps can be closed or partially closed, and finally, a reprioritization of evidence needs to identify the most critical, high priority areas and to get a clear understanding of what the most critical evidence gaps are. This work will include stakeholder involvement in testing, and we will be developing a stakeholder engagement plan and be in touch with relevant stakeholders in due course. This will also involve the OWEER Project Advisory Group and OWEER Technical Steering Group. Alongside this gap analysis and reprioritization work, we will also be moving forward with digitizing OWEER in line with other developments in the space, like the Offshore Wind Evidence Knowledge Hub or OWEER. The aim for this is to improve the accessibility, usability, and searchability of the register to make it more user-friendly. We have already conducted some user research to define different user profiles that will help us move forward with the digitization design. Overall, as a direction for 2025 and 2026, the OWEER will be fully digitized as a tool where the front and back end will be developed simultaneously. And for now, this new OWEER tool will sit on the Marine Data Exchange, but there is an aspiration for it to sit within OWEER. This also means that the OWEER version 7 will integrate the outputs from this gap analysis work and is to be delivered in the new digital OWEER tool. If you would like any more information on OWEER in general, the upcoming digitization or the reprioritization project, please do get in touch with the relevant contacts from the Crown Estate and JNCC that are listed on the slide. Many thanks for your attention, and I would also like to thank the Crown Estate and the OWEER program for funding the OWEER work, thank JNCC staff for their continued efforts in producing the register, and then finally, a thank you to all the contributors for providing their time and efforts to populate the OWEER.